Brian Keever's impact on trap shooting in the state of North Carolina is undeniable. And as he's inducted into the North Carolina Trap Shooting Hall of Fame, we've asked a few people that have walked alongside him to share stories and memories in respect of the man behind the gun. Okay, we're here with Bob Keever. Dad, tell us about the first time you remember Brian shooting.
Well, I just started trap shooting, and Brian was always pestering me. He wanted to shoot too. So finally I told him he could shoot. And I had an old 20 gauge shotgun, single shot, cock a hammer and shoot. That's what he started out with. We didn't know nothing about trap shooting much. And so he was learning with that and shooting pretty good. And he said, when can I go? I started him on singles, and he was, when can I go shooting handicap? I said, well, when you break 90. Well, wasn't long, he was breaking 90 and had started letting him shoot the handicap. And then when Bill started, we had the same deal, except I thought it would be neat. Between the three of us, the one that had the lowest score had to clean everybody's gun. Well, only problem with that, I didn't take too long. The Liz beating me, so I had to change the rules.
So that's when you remember Brian first shooting. So what do you remember most about Brian as a competitor?
He didn't think nobody could beat him, and he really was competitive and liked to get on the line and shoot. And like I said, he's very, very competitive.
So did he get that from you or Mom?
Well, I don't like to lose either.
All right, so one quick story that you remember about Brian.
Well, he'd been down at South Carolina State Shoot at Spartanburg, and his granddaddy had taken him down. When we got down there, he come running over to the car, me and his mother, and he said, I got a shotgun. Muggs Courtney here's got a shotgun he's wanting to sell, and said, I can't miss with that thing. And it was a KS5, and serial number 40 is one of the earlier ones brought over here. And I said, well, let me see his shoes. He went out, he run 25 with it. So ended up, we bought it. He had to have it, and he really could shoot it. He shot it really well. Matter of fact, we still have it.
So your story is a time where you remember having to spend a lot of money on Brian. That's what I heard. So, Dad, thanks for sharing the stories.
Glad to.
All right, we're here with Bob Schultz. Bob, you are an inductee to the North Carolina Trap Shooting Hall of Fame. So just want to share some words with Brian today.
Sure. I've known Brian since he was in, I guess, high school or maybe even junior high, and you'll never meet a nicer guy. But there is one funny story. We both shot the same kind of a gun years and years ago at Pinehurst, and he was following me, or I was following him, I don't remember which, in a squad, and both of our guns were on the rack. Well, mine's a release trigger and his is a pull. So I picked up his gun, promptly went up and put the prettiest pattern on the back of the trap house that you have ever seen. And Brian has reminded me of that every time he sees me. So Brian, congratulations. I hope you continue with your shooting career, and you've got a lovely family and a great brother, and look forward to seeing you at the banquet tonight.
Thanks a lot, Bob. All right, now we've got Carolyn Keever. Mom, tell us about the first time you remember Brian shooting.
Well, the first time that I can ever remember Brian shooting was out in the front yard at Grandmother and Granddaddy Keever's house. And Granddaddy Keever had an old trap, hand loaded, had to pull it by a cord. And he sat and Brian shot. And Brian probably wasn't a whole lot taller than that shotgun at that point, but he thought he was a shooter at that point.
Did he hit more than he missed?
I don't recall. I do know that he hit some of them. Let's just put it that way.
So what do you remember about Brian most as a competitor?
Brian liked to check the scoreboard. He wanted to see what everybody else had done, and he was anxious to know what the results were going to be.
Would he do that before he shot, after he shot, while he was shooting?
Usually after he shot. He didn't usually do that before or during, definitely not during, but usually afterwards.
All right, now tell us one story that you remember about Brian in all the years that he was shooting.
Well, Brian was competitive and trophies were important to him, but I distinctly remember that when Brian won his first state uh, championship as a sub junior, we were at Pinehurst and he was extremely excited that he had won. And he came around the end of the building and said to us, "Hey, I won. But you know what? Ben Anderson just told me he was really proud of me." And Ben Anderson was a gentleman from here in Rutherford County who with long tradition of trap shooting. And Brian had great respect, as many of us did, for Ben Anderson. And he was so thrilled that Ben was proud of him that day.
That's pretty special. All right, so now I'm going to put you on the spot. Probably the most important question I'm going to ask you: who was a better shot, Brian or Bill?
Your dad shot really well at times.
No comment. All right, thanks, Mom.
Love you, Bill.
Love you too. All right, we're here with Dennis Taylor. Dennis is a member of the North Carolina Trap Shooting Hall of Fame. You know what it's like to earn a spot into that Hall of Fame. Anything you want to say to Brian this evening as he's getting inducted?
Well, uh, it's just been great to know the kid. I grew up with him and his brother that's doing the interview here, and we go way back. So he's earned every bit of it. And anyway, he's come from a fine family, I can say that.
All right, we're here with Wayne Keever. Uncle Wayne, I understand. I've been asking people about some shooting stories with Brian, and I understand you have a hunting story, and that's closely related to the shooting because you guys went out to do some elk hunting. So I understand you have a hunting story that you'd like to share with about Brian.
Yes, we was out in Montana hunting, and the snow was about knee deep, and we was going up a real steep, rough place, and the horses was having to dig and paw to get up through there, and I kept hearing Brian back there behind me go, "Whoa, whoa," and I looked back, and his horse was just lunging up the side of the mountain, and I thought it was funny at first because I was about to throw him out of the saddle. But then I remembered he was hunting with my 300 Magnum and it was hanging on the horse. And so I bailed off and caught the horse just as Brian fell off in a big drift of snow. And he didn't get hurt, but he sunk up out of sight.
That's a pretty good story. But I also understand that there was a dismounting fiasco that he had also that he required some assistance from you. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, he stepped down on his horse, off of his horse, and he was dressed just like he was punching cows instead of hunting elk. And when he stepped down off the horse, the buttons on his big heavy coat caught on the saddle horn, and I heard him standing over, "Uncle Wayne, help me, Uncle Wayne." And I looked over, and his toes was just barely touching the ground, and the rest of him was hanging up there on the saddle horn. He couldn't go up and he couldn't get down, so I got over and got him unhooked and saved his life.
Oh, thanks for telling us those stories, Uncle Wayne. All right, we're here with Terry Roush, Hall of Fame inductee from North Carolina, past ATA president. Terry, you have a few words for Brian tonight?
I just want to say congratulations and, well deserved and good luck.
Oh, thank you very much, Terry.
Sure.
All right, we're here with Jess Keever. Jess, I got a couple of questions for you. Tell us about the first time you remember seeing Brian shoot.
So first time I remember Brian shooting is in the river bottom at Piedmont Rifle and Pistol Club. They had a single trap down there, and Brian had just kind of learned to shoot a little bit, and we were down there watching him shoot. And of course, he's always been able to pick up any shotgun, shoot it 4 or 5 times, figure out where it's shooting, and start breaking targets. And so I remember being about 6 or 7 years old, Brian's down there in the river bottom just breaking targets all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, tell us one Brian Keever story that you remember from his shooting career, or as we shot some together, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't get to shoot a lot with Brian based on our age difference. One of the kind of funnier stories is we were actually shooting. We were all shooting together at your Hall of Fame induction weekend, and as we got in front of the clubhouse there, lots of people started watching. There's me and four gentlemen that have shot for a living out there in front of the clubhouse and shooting, and all of a sudden there's 200 or 300 people back there. And as Brian makes the walk from post 5 to post 1, he stops and he says, "Hey, don't get nervous. All these people watching you shoot." I just looked at him and said, "Nobody's watching me shoot, buddy."
Well, that's a great story, Jess. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Brian. So we're here with a couple of old shooting friends. Just want to see what they wanted to say to you today.
I just want to say congratulations to your induction into the Hall of Fame. A lot of history. I remember you when you were a little bitty fella. That was a long time ago. He was a little bitty, but we shot together here at the home grounds, and just a lot of great memories.
It's definitely been a lot of years since Brian was little bitty.
A lot of years.
That's funny, Bill. It has been. He don't remember when that. But congratulations. You guys are a great family, and a lot of tradition there, and a lot of volunteer that's for the state of North Carolina, and we're all very grateful to you, Brian, but also your entire family. And best of luck to you, brother. Best
Thank
of
you
luck.
very much. You guys are a big part of our family. So thank you. Congratulations, Brian, on this well-deserved honor. Your legacy, both on the range and in the hearts of those who know you, will echo far beyond this moment. Here's to the grit, the journey, and the glory.